This is NBA Morning Scoreboard presented by Pacers Time Podcast. This is a very special playoff edition of NBA Morning Scoreboard as we start the playoffs today. Very exciting. First, we're just going to break down each matchup and what I think is going to happen in each one of those matchups, and we're just going to kind of start out with today's games. We have the Brooklyn Nets and the Toronto Raptors. We have the Warriors and the Clippers. We have the Atlanta Hawks and the Indiana Pacers. We have the Memphis Grizzlies and Oklahoma City Thunder. So we have a lot of games today, and we're just going to kind of try to break down all of these playoff games and series for you, just to kind of give you an idea of where I am and give you my playoff predictions and what is going to happen. First, we're going to start out with the Brooklyn Nets and the Toronto Raptors. Toronto having a surprising 3 seed, I'd have to say, going into the season. If you would have told any Raptors fan that they were going to get the 3 seed, they probably would have laughed in your face. But they've definitely played hard. They've had Terrence Ross really step up, and they've played like a third seed team. Then you have the Brooklyn Nets. They were expected to be potentially a number 1, number 2 seed coming in. They brought in Kevin Garnett. They brought in Paul Pierce. They still have Darren Williams, and they have Joe Johnson and Brook Lopez, and everybody thought that this was going to be the team that could possibly take down the Heat. So with these two matchups today, they're playing in Toronto. I really think that Toronto can do it, but you have to look at with the Nets' experience and also the way that they play at home. But really, as you saw, as we were just talking about the Nets were the only team to be able to sweep the Miami Heat. And that was basically what they had in mind going into this. The Brooklyn Nets don't really play down and dirty. The Brooklyn Nets are more of the flashy, offensive type of team. And that's kind of where Miami is. And if you can play on that same level, then all you have to do is just crank it up a little bit. I think that Brooklyn might have a chance if they did play Miami in the Eastern Conference Finals. I think that they could beat them. But first they have to get by this really good Toronto team. I believe that Toronto will do it. It'll be a long series. I think that it could last 5 to 6 games, but I really think that Toronto would be able to do it just with their backcourt and what they can do on the defensive side of the ball as well as the offensive side of the ball. Now we're going to move on to the Golden State Warriors and Los Angeles Clippers. That's today, 3:30 on ABC. Playing in LA, Los Angeles Clippers have the 3 seed. It's been kind of down to the wire. The Western Conference was definitely the better conference of the year, but you look at the way the Clippers have played lately, and it's just the coordination between everybody. They have Blake Griffin, who is just playing extremely well right now. They also have DeAndre Jordan, who is not disappointing. And they have Chris Paul, who is still coming back, and he's making a difference in this team. I think that the Clippers will beat the Warriors. The Warriors have the number 6 seed. They lost Andrew Bogut, and Jermaine O'Neal will be starting. Andrew Bogut will not be playing in this first round playoff series, and so that's another reason why I can say that I think that the Clippers aren't going to make it. The Warriors aren't going to make it. Unlike last year, the Warriors were definitely in the discussion, and we thought, they've got what it takes. They're going to be able to reach even the finals. But this year, not necessarily the case. They're just not playing as well as they did last year. And, the Clippers, it's been really tough for those first 3 spots. San Antonio, Oklahoma City, and the Clippers, it's been really tough and a lot of grinding, and I think that the Clippers definitely are going to win in this first round matchup. Now, I'm going to come out and say it, my favorite team, and my team, because I'm from Indiana, the Pacers, host the Atlanta Hawks tonight, 7 p.m. The Pacers come in at the number 1 seed. I have to tell you, after the last few weeks of them playing, I can definitely tell you that I did not really expect for the Pacers to get the number 1 seed. And really, I didn't expect Miami to lose the last 2 games. Then you have Atlanta. Atlanta and Indiana tied this year 2-2. I really think that the Indiana Pacers will win this matchup, but the Atlanta Hawks are definitely going to pose a little bit of a threat. The Hawks play tough, and that's how the Pacers also play. If you can play tough with the Pacers, you have a chance of winning. And right now, the way it's looking, Roy Hibbert has not been playing well for the Pacers at all. So really, I think that the Hawks stand a little bit of a chance. It's all depending on what they do. If I'm Frank Vogel, I'm not starting Roy Hibbert. Jan Mahimi definitely deserves the start. The Pacers are also expecting a lot out of Luis Scola. They're expecting a lot out of their bench for this playoff, for just throughout the whole entire playoffs. Other news from the Pacers, Andrew Bynum won't be playing. So it's kind of, they have Roy Hibbert needs to step up if they're going to be able to win this series. And I think Atlanta definitely does pose a serious threat to the Pacers. And I think if they play tough, that the Pacers might crumble and fall. One of the bigger matchups of the evening, number 2, Oklahoma City plays number 7, Memphis Grizzlies. In this preview, 9:30 on ESPN. For Memphis, Zach Randolph has been playing extremely well. And Oklahoma City, they came off kind of a tough loss in Indianapolis. They just didn't play really all that well. But the Thunder, I think, will win this playoff series. Memphis Grizzlies definitely do have the tough and rugged component that is kind of like the Pacers. And that's, I think, one of the reasons why Oklahoma City struggled against the Pacers. And I think that if they can stop Oklahoma City from shooting that 3-point shot, if their guards can fly, and if they can protect the wing, then I really think that Memphis has a chance of winning this. Really, I don't see the Thunder going to the finals. I don't think that they're going to make it. They don't really have the consistency that I would like in the post. They don't really have a very good post game. Kendrick Perkins, I think, is not the greatest that you could get. And I just really think that they're not physical enough. If you're going to win the playoffs against this Memphis Grizzlies team, you have to play physical. And I've seen Kevin Durant play. Kevin is, he's still playing well, but he's not playing as well. And other guys really need to step up. You saw they were really thriving when they had Reggie Jackson in there able to play. And now that he's been moved to the bench, his production has basically dropped off. Tabu Cephalosha definitely has dropped his play, and he's not playing as well. Derek Fisher, just hasn't been producing the way I think that they need to. So it's all kind of, it's up and down. You don't really know where this is going to go. But I think that the Thunder will probably get it done. But it's just a question of how much farther they will go. So that's all for today's games. But now we're just going to look ahead to tomorrow's games, starting at 1 p.m. Easter Sunday on TNT. Dallas Mavericks and San Antonio Spurs, number 1, number 8, the Battle of Texas. I'm pretty excited about this matchup. I think that the Mavericks definitely, they're a tough team, but they don't stand a shot against San Antonio Spurs. The Spurs are just too strong offensively and defensively. And the Spurs just have a great bench, and I think that that's really going to be a determining factor on how they can beat the Mavericks, but I don't really see much competition there. I think that the San Antonio Spurs will take down the Dallas Mavericks. In other games, tomorrow, 3:30 on ABC, the Bobcats and the Heat. Again, I think that the Heat are going to be able to take this, but something that I think could really plague the Heat is you saw in their last 2 games, they took out LeBron James and Chris Bosh, and they got killed. They take out 2 players, and their team is being jeopardized and of losing every game. Miami doesn't have that deep of a bench. Everybody says they have a really deep bench, and if LeBron's out, it doesn't matter because everybody will step up. But it does matter. The Miami Heat will win this series. But if a very tough, grinding, nobody cares Bobcats team, just going out, I'm saying that this could be a possibility if they could send somebody out, just a bench player, and if they could hurt LeBron, if they could do something and get him, in the locker room, I think that the Charlotte Bobcats do have a chance. But it's going to take an injury, and throughout the rest of the playoffs, I think that would really hurt this Heat team. So LeBron really has to stay in one piece. Chris Bosh has to stay in one piece. Everything has to stay the way it is, or the Miami Heat are going to start losing games. So for right now, I like the Miami Heat. I think that they're going to beat the Bobcats easily. But unless Charlotte Bobcats can go out and do something to jeopardize this Heat team, I don't see the Bobcats getting much done. Now this next matchup is a matchup that I'm very excited about. The 4 and 5 seed Chicago and Washington, 7 p.m. on TNT. Very excited to see both of these teams play. You see Chicago with, just kind of their rougher side. Both of these teams are definitely rough, grinding teams. And you just kind of look at what they can do, and I believe that this is going to be a very good series. I've watched the Wizards play, and to be honest, I didn't think that they would make it this far up in the seeds, to get a number 5 seed. I think that this is definitely a treat for them. They're playing in Chicago tonight. I think the Bulls, it really depends on Joakim Noah. Joakim Noah steps up and plays very well, then the Chicago Bulls will win. But if he starts playing very poorly, and if he can't get anything, then I think that it's Washington Wizards. I think it's really a game in the post. Who is going to win in the post? And you look at Chicago, they have Taj Gibson, and they have Carlos Boozer. I think both of those guys are going to be a determining factor in this series. Look at the Washington Wizards. They're also pretty deep. We saw the other night Al Harrington had a very nice game. That's just somebody that can help step up on the bench for the Washington Wizards. They have Nene back. He's averaging 14 points this season. Really, I think, but just the main battle, the biggest battle I want to watch in the whole entire playoff series, all of them, are Marcin Gorgat. I totally said that name wrong. And Joakim Noah. I think that's going to be a big battle. Gortat has definitely been a big part in the Washington Wizards getting into the playoffs. He's gone up against some really good guys. And I think that it's going to be a battle between Gortat and Joakim Noah. And to look at what else the Washington Wizards have to back up, you saw with just heard the Chicago Bulls, Joakim Noah, Carlos Boozer, and Taj Gibson. That's about it. But, with the Washington Wizards here, you have Drew Gooden, Marcin Gortat, Nene. I think that they're all guys that can definitely step up and be a major factor. A lot of people are thinking John Wall. I think he might be a little bit of a factor in this. He averages 19 points a game. He hasn't really been the main story for the Washington Wizards throughout the season, definitely, but I think that this is going to be a very close series, and I have to take the Washington Wizards on this. I just think they're a little bit more deep, and I think that they have what it takes to beat the Chicago Bulls. So you can catch that game 7 p.m. on TNT tomorrow. And then the late game starting at 9:30, Portland Trail Blazers and the Houston Rockets, another 4 and 5 seed matchup. So a lot of doubleheader of two really good games tomorrow night on TNT. The Rockets, I think, have been playing. I think they've played really well this season. They've kind of surprised me just a little bit. I didn't expect them, to be this good, but they're a different team now. With Dwight Howard, he's averaging 18 points a game and 12 rebounds. He's a big factor in this team. I think that going into the playoffs here, I think they can beat the Trailblazers just if Dwight Howard plays the way that he has to play. Terrence Jones, definitely another big factor, 12 points a game. He has to step up in every single game if they want to win. Then you have James Harden. He's averaging 25 points a game. James Harden definitely has to step up. James Harden has to be the leader on this team, and he has to really be the driving force to get this team through the playoffs. And I think that, the Houston Rockets aren't all that deep. But then we go and look at the Portland Trail Blazers. I think that really LaMarcus Aldridge, you just look at who they've got going for them. And they're a lot more deep. They have Damian Lillard, LaMarcus Aldridge, Robin Lopez, Wesley Matthews. I just think that they have. I just think that they have that extra factor. They have that extra guy that's going to be able to enter this playoff series and really do some harm. They have Nicholas Batum. He's averaging 13 points a game. They're definitely going to have to get a lot out of him. So I just think that in this playoff matchup, I have to go with the Portland Trail Blazers just because they're a little bit more deep, and I think that that's something that is definitely going to matter in these just 4 and 5 seed matchups. And it's a big factor. So, again, I like the Portland Trail Blazers just because they're a little bit more deep and they have a little bit more depth. So that was the very special edition of NBA Morning Scoreboard. Again, you can watch all the games, a lot of playoff action from the NBA. So I thank you for listening. This has been NBA Morning Scoreboard presented by Pacers Time Podcast.